welcome to the Game Chaps podcast. We're back. It's Jamie, Bindy, and Robin. We said we weren't going to do this remotely, but
we said we'd never do this again, but we are.
We are, because life is still fucked up, and we got shit to talk about. So, yeah, as mentioned, I'm Jamie, and I'm here with
Bindy. That's me. I'm Bindy.
And I'm Robin.
And hopefully we're all sounding sexy because we're still recording at home.
Sexy.
Which is hilarious because when I listen back to our other podcasts, we're like, yeah, we deliberately didn't do any podcasts from home because we only want to do these in person. And we're like, we broke. But to be fair, that was a few months ago. But welcome. This is the Game Chaps podcast. Tripping over myself there. We talk about all sorts of crazy things from, your favorite video game superpowers to whatever 60 kitten 69 is cooking up in the kitchen. That's a tongue twister. And we're back again because it's still lockdown. We're still playing games. So we thought, why not do a second podcast? For
been over a
More
year now.
Games of Lockdown is the official title. More Games of Lockdown. So we last did this in what, October?
Probably.
Oh God, yeah.
Sometime around there. And we basically, for context, if you haven't listened to the previous one, and why haven't you? We reflected on the games we were playing in the first lockdown. That was UK lockdown a la March 2020. And that was everything from your Animal Crossings to your Last of Us 2s, your Overwatches, your Dreams. A real nice mixture of games. Some frenetic, some relaxing, but some really nihilistic and staring into the void. So here we are, more games of Lockdown, and let's see if our tastes have evolved or if we're still full of despair as we were last time. So I believe we started with Robin last time, so I'm going to come straight in. Bindy, what is your More Games of Lockdown? And this, by the way, is Lockdown 2.0/3.0 because fucking hell, we've been in our houses since like December last year, so it all merges. Bindy, what have you been playing this past few months, and what has been one of your games of more Games of Lockdown?
What has been one of your games of more?
Mordor.
Well, to be honest, I have been playing a lot of the same games, but I have also added a couple of different ones. And the first one that I want to talk about is The Outer Worlds.
Oh,
I started playing that, and I haven't actually got through that much of it. I put in a fair few hours, but like I can tell I'm like not that far into the story yet. But I really like it, and I think part of the reason I like it, and I'm sure a lot of other people have made the comparison with Fallout, it has a very similar vibe. But I was looking at like other people's reviews of it and thinking about what is particularly good about this game, and I came across a point that I was like, yeah, that is what makes it not better, because obviously I really love Fallout. But one of the things, actually, to be honest, that slightly stresses me out with the game is that it gives you so many conversational options. More so than when you're playing Fallout, you look at the answers, like the answers you can give, and it's like, oh, okay, that's the one that's going to make me a good person. This is the one that makes me a bad person, and that's like a middle of the road non-answer. Whereas in the Outer Worlds, it's much more like
save grandma.
Grey. Like you like. So there were a couple of times, and this just kind of shows what I'm like, because I always want to play essentially as like in Mass Effect Paragon. I don't want to be a renegade. For the most part, I just want to.
And you make that one bad decision, and it goes the wrong way. You're like, no, I didn't mean to say that.
Yes. I've been in that position before, so I actually did look up a couple of times. What is the answer that will get me the result?
What is the correct answer to conversation?
Yeah, what is the correct answer? One of the like main first quests, I was like, it was genuinely a dilemma. Like, I don't know whether to help this person or this person, because at first I thought I knew. Then you have a companion who's saying, actually, no, do you know what? Looking at it, even though that person may be nicer. This is actually the best solution for most people. And I was like, oh no, I had to go and look it up.
Sorry, a little bit of a segue, but is that not like some sort of slightly crap but also very useful real-world superpower that someone asks you a question in real life and you're presented with a list of options of things you might potentially say, and it's like highlighted like the kind of response you'll get in terms of like a paragon or a renegade option or blasé or like middle of the road thing.
There's a wiki you can just look at, and it's like, oh yeah, dad wanted this for Christmas, really.
so technically you could always say the right thing and always like impress people on dates or in interviews or in just like day-to-day conversation. But if you're being a dick, you can deliberately go, oh, but if I say that, I'm going to piss him off. Yeah, I'm going to do that. I feel like doing that. That's a great superpower.
That would be very good. But I mean, I'd just be like, yes, which one is the one? Yes, this will make them like me. That's the one that I'm going to. Even the thing is, I recognize that even sometimes I do that with people. Like, I don't like this person, but I want them to like me. So I'm going to say the thing that they'll like. Not all the time. If they're truly evil, then I will just like.
You tell them to go suck a lemon.
There was one Mass Effect one where you just get to push the guy through like the window, like push him out the window. I did that. So you know, sometimes I will. I'll take action if it's needed.
It's funny, isn't it? Like there are very few games I can think of with choice-based sort of morality system type things, which feel like they get that stuff right in terms of encouraging you to actually want to role play a character versus just going like, I can see that this option is going to make me good, so I'll get good points, and this will make me bad with bad points.
Well, it's like there's got to be a balance, because all those games need to have an element of, in some scenarios, you shouldn't even be having a conversation at all because you've either snuck into the place and been completely undetected. And in other scenarios, you're so gun heavy, you've already shot the person who's going to ask you that question and have already murdered half the people in that scene.
Yeah.
So I think to its credits, from my experience playing the Outer Wilds, I appreciated the quite dialogue heavy approach, because I was like, I like the idea of being a silver-tongued charmer in this post-world apocalypse.
Where
I wasn't as buff as my Fallout characters, and I blagged my way through a lot of it. It's like, I like this. This appeals to me more than certain Fallout scenarios where I feel like I'm forced into combat or I have to make a black and white decision on a quest, rather than being like, I'm just a guy just wandering around and chatting shit and getting what's best for me out of it, and that's through talking, not through action.
I think that's the thing I need to embrace a little bit more, is like, it doesn't have to be right or wrong. And I'm like, I don't want to do the wrong thing. I don't want to do something and then regret it further down the line. But I think if I keep looking up, then I'm not really playing it properly. I'm not like role playing it, you know, I'm not really going for it. But no, I like you were saying with the being able to talk your way out of situations rather than having to fight. Like, to be honest, so far, maybe just because I've gotten so used to playing games like Splatoon and Overwatch, where I have motion, like the motion control, that I'm so rusty without it. I'm so used to being able to just literally tilt my hand and adjust the shot.
That's interesting.
So I'm finding the combat quite difficult at the moment.
I was going to say, outside of the dialogue, how do you feel the Outer Worlds? Sorry, not the Outer Wilds, different game. The Outer Worlds compares to Fallout in terms of the environment, the combat, the RPG elements?
I mean, in all honesty, I think I was more quickly sold on Fallout, and I couldn't even exactly tell you why. Maybe just that it's a really strong. I think, to be honest, for me, I just really like the properly post-apocalyptic thing, and the fact that it shows you the moment. And whereas at the moment with the Outer Worlds, I'm still piecing things together. So I think I'm still quite early on, like I said. So I'm definitely still interested, but it hasn't gripped me maybe as quickly as Fallout did. But I don't know exactly why.
That's interesting.
Well, post-apocalypse is like a setting that you can sort of pretty quickly get your head around, like what you're going to be served, whereas space stuff could be a massive range of different types of settings.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying. I think maybe with Fallout as well, because there was such a clear goal, I guess, from the beginning. And even though there is one in the Outer Worlds as well, it's just not as...
You're not as invested.
I don't know, I don't connect with it. And not quite as invested straight away.
I think that's fair.
But I'm really enjoying it, and I think I am getting more used to the combat. I'm really enjoying it, and the different range of weapons and things is fun.
Yeah,
and I like the options of companions you can have so far. I like that's a thing, because I enjoyed that in Mass Effect. I like collecting people and going, yes, I like you, and I don't like you, and you can stay off.
You're part of my team. No, you're relegated to the bench, Garrus.
Yeah. No, Garrus would never be.
No, Garrus is your absolute ringer. He's your star quarterback. Yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out. Respect to Garrus.
What a guy. What a guy.
How do you find the character creator in Outer Worlds?
Oh, it's not. I mean, it felt more restricted.
Right.
More
than
because that's
Fallout.
what Robin loves in a good game.
Because I've never found the Bethesda character creators particularly good.
Well, the thing is with the Bethesda one is that it's the opposite. It's so overly complicated that it's difficult to keep a person looking like a normal human person.
Right.
Without a massive nose and blue skin.
In the Outer Worlds, it's a little bit less complicated, but I felt like I didn't have the range of something as simple as like hair. I can't remember what it was, but I thought I can't make this person look exactly how I want them to look.
Yeah.
And I do get
that's frustrating. Quite
into the character creator stuff, but I mean it's still pretty good. I don't think that's what it's really going for.
Yeah. God, the hair thing is making me think back to a lot of older games in that style. Even like that, probably second Mass Effect game as well. It was just like there are no good hair options for femme shit.
No, I mean hair is always going to be a difficult thing.
Like you basically just I've got my hair in a tight bun, or it looks like it's been laminated, like it's an absolute mess.
I was going to say I usually go for a ponytail. Or recently, whenever I played female characters in games, I give them short hair, make them hot.
I mean, you're right. Like, depth is depth, but there comes a point where, like, I don't really care if I can adjust the height of my brow, but I do care if there's certain hairstyles that I'm missing as presets, which go like. I mean, I say they go a long way. You play half these games, and then the other half of the RPG element is getting sweet armor that covers yourself up so you don't even see the character, like, and you just spent an hour creating it in the first place. So it's always a bit of a double-edged sword, but if you didn't have that feature, God almighty would people kick off about not being able to do it, and then even if it's squandered by wearing a suit of power armor the entire game, because statistically your character's going to die without it. So but okay. I like that. Shout out to the Outer Worlds, something a bit more ethereal.
I like it. It's good, and I haven't played that type of game in a while. I'm actually because
are you playing it on the Switch out of interest? Probably.
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Because that's something I really wanted to do, and I knew it. Like from the early days of it, it was always said that it was coming out on the Switch, and I was like, oh, I really want to hold off for this, but I really want to play it. And one Christmas or whatever. I eventually caved and got on the PS4, and part of me is like, 3 months later it came out on the Switch. I was like, oh, I really wanted. I don't know why. It was the kind of game I would enjoy on the Switch.
It's funny because for me, I was literally about to say like my dock doesn't work, and I'm actually looking forward to getting back to so I can use Robin's dock, and have it on the TV, because I think that's the best for me. That's how I want to play that type of game.
It's a big game experience, but for whatever reason I was obsessed. I was like, but I also want to play it on my Switch in handheld mode if I can, because
I mean, for sure it's nice to have the option.
I can definitely imagine it being the sort of game that really does benefit from being able to do either. Like,
yes.
I when I'm going on an adventure, like a big mainline quest, I want to do that on the TV. But if I'm doing little bits and pieces,
grinding and shit.
I want to do that in
true.
bed.
Because that's what I like about that kind of game, is that if you're like, I'm not really like, maybe I'm a bit tired, I just want to play a little bit. You can just kind of wander around, pick some stuff up, talk to some people, and it doesn't have to be something that like is adrenaline fueled or like. But then you have that at the same time. It gives you nice options.
Well, speaking of grinding, Robin, what game have you been rubbing up against these past cold, hard winter months? Who's been tucking you in at night?
Well, I'll tell you what I've been grinding. I have been grinding.
Don't say my mum.
On a nice little game.
Well, thank you, everybody. That was the Game Chaps podcast.
Okay, I'll tell you what. I'll talk about this game first because I kind of got to the end of it. So I played Hyrule Warriors: Age of Calamity.
Very good, very good.
Which I think I did absolutely everything I can do on. And I liked it. The end.
The end? That's it?
Great video essay. I love it.
So
Hyrule Warriors, buy it now. Nintendo Switch store. Probably still full price.
Jamie, did you play the original Hyrule Warriors at all?
No. So my only vague experience is I've played... oh God, what's the original series it's actually based off? What's it called?
Yeah, what's its chops? Oh God, why can't I?
Warriors, Christ! The fact that I can't even think about it.
Dynasty Warriors. Dynasty Warriors.
So I've played a few Dynasty Warriors games. I get the principle of running on this crazy battlefield and having to be drawn to certain areas, and you just go through and smash all the troops. I have actually played a few spin-offs with things like Gundam and things using that.
Did you play the Fire Emblem one?
Yeah. So I haven't done Hyrule Warriors itself, but I get the principle, and I get... Whereas you can say it's a bit of a tried and tested formula to an extent. Yeah. Adding a franchise to it, and in particular, the way Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity or whatever actually started to go back into lore for those who enjoyed Breath of the Wild was a really ballsy move, because it's basically like, if you enjoyed the Breath of the Wild and the DLC, we've got some canon stuff over in this game which you kind of need to play to a certain extent.
Well, I don't think it's as simple as that in terms of the canonicity of the game, because this is a minor spoiler, but it is literally like the intro cutscene of the game. So, there is time travel shit involved in the story. So, it could entirely be, its own thing. It doesn't. It's there's no reason to expect it to affect the plot of Breath of the Wild 2, whatever that game turns out to be called.
No, and it's got to be able to stand on its own feet for you to buy it now as a... someone shouldn't be going, oh, I've not played Breath of the Wild, therefore I shouldn't be picking up Hyrule Warriors.
Yeah. So that is the most majorly obvious thing that sets it apart from the previous Hyrule Warriors game, which is that the story that it has is really nicely told and feels very consistent and feels like it's you getting to explore, spending more time with characters that you are already familiar with. So that's, I would say that is probably the main selling point of the thing, because if you have any familiarity with any of the Warriors Musou games, it's mostly just slashing, and it's usually
very hack and slash, isn't it?
Yeah, I would say that this game is marginally more complex than the previous one, in terms of, I think they tried to integrate more of the Breath of the Wild mechanics into their combat system and things, and it's paid off quite well in terms of just giving it a little more depth, because I did play the previous one, and definitely like if there were characters I wasn't interested in, I just couldn't be bothered to go through their things. Whereas I did like enjoy playing as every single character in this game.
That's good.
Their movesets, from what I've played of it, keep it interesting enough that you be like, okay, I want to try this person. I want to see if I can get good at this.
Yeah, definitely.
They're very different.
Yeah.
Quite hard, actually.
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot to get your head around in terms of what you can do. And I really enjoy that aspect of it because it becomes a thing of like, it's enjoyable to learn the characters.
Actually, in that way, it kind of reminds me of Smash Bros. Because it's all about like combinations of buttons, basically. Or what?
Yeah.
It seemed like that to me.
Yeah.
Which I'm not very good at remembering, okay. Oh, okay, great. Now I've done this move, I'll follow up with
X, Y, B, Z, upside down, somersault, flip, B, Z.
It hurts my brain.
But I think that is what makes the game work, really, in terms of like giving it longevity, giving you stuff to do,
mastering those skills.
Exactly. Whereas, the previous game, I didn't really find that for me anyway, and. Also, with the previous game, I mean, this does feel like it was written by, the same team that wrote everything in Breath of the Wild, which I think it at least partially was.
It had some crossover, it wasn't like I definitely get the impression it wasn't just like, oh, we're just selling out our license because Nintendo does get very protective about that. So if
it was definitely overseen by the people involved,
which is good.
Whereas the previous game felt like fan fiction written by someone who was only familiar with very mediocre anime.
And then Link pulled the Master Sword from its hinge slowly, smoothly, two-handedly.
No, see, this is getting interesting, what you're doing now. I like that. They could have had more of that.
Excuse me, princess.
Well, excuse me, princess.
So
come on, Nintendo, you need to hire us. We apparently write better dialogue and sex scenes than fucking Hyrule Warriors, the first game. Get on it.
So a great gif from the cartoon show I sent Bindy the other day because it made me laugh so much. It's literally like Zelda's like lying down on her bed. Like she's just going, oh god, I'm like relaxing, and Link opens the door and goes, "Oh boy, smooching time!" and just jumps, her. It's great.
Yeah, you have to put that in.
Please send that to me. Please send it to me so A, I can enjoy it, and B, for visual reference, it'll flash up in the podcast video now.
Phew. Zelda! Link! Oh boy, smooching time!
Horrible.
And that's why that's why it's such a good series, because it's relatable characters.
Stop.
Oh boy, smoochy time!
Smooching time!
Here I come!
Like leaps on her, like jumps on her. It's horrible.
Look, it was the
romantic.
80s. Things have drastically changed since the 80s.
Oh my god, horrific.
But anyway, in closing summary, why should people play Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity?
It's it's just mechanically very satisfying. It's nicely put together. It doesn't always run well, but it's like it's a really kind of good feeling, low mental energy kind of podcast game, plus really interesting storytelling with some fun characters.
Sweet.
Very good. Well, speaking of fun characters, and that's just me picking up on the last thing you said,
Speaking of
my
segues.
first choice for this round of lockdown gaming, pardon me, excuse me.
Oh dear.
Inexcusable. It should come as no surprise. It's Hades.
Yeah, well.
Fucking hell. There's a reason why I temper, like, I am a gamer, and I use inverted commas because, or quotation marks there, when I say that, because I'm very much into the world of gaming and I keep on top of it, but I'm aware that I have to be very careful with my gaming actual experiences, because either I'm like dabbling in things or I'm balls deep and I can't do anything else. And fuck me, if Hades just came along and like, I knew it was People's Game of the Year last year. I knew it was a big deal. It's an indie darling, all that kind of jazz. It's a roguelike or rogue, hang on, rogue. And this is an important distinction. I'm getting onto it. Roguelike or roguelite, whatever. And that's not normally my kind of jazz, but it got a big deal about it. It was the end of the year. We were going into lockdown again. It was on sale or whatever. McGraw, shout out McGraw, gave me a heads up. It was on Nintendo Switch. And I was like, oh, sweet, I'll pick this up. Fucking hell, I could not put down that game. It is addictive as crack cocaine on an east side street in New Orleans. It's everything. It's the, like, first and foremost, the combat loop. It's something which, having previously, I've only played Bastion previously of Supergiant Games, and that's doing them a massive disservice. That I should have really gotten stuck into Pyre and Transistor, I think is the other one.
Yeah.
Because my assumption is that Hades is basically the sum of all of those games, and it's taken the best bits of all of them and being like, look, we've put 3 good like titles out there with their flaws, and here's now I'm gonna say it, perfection. We've taken the best things of all of that stuff. First and foremost, combat. It's visceral. It's fluid. There's, once you do it long enough, there's an element of, you start like a little bit of like skill and you start getting into it, and the weapon combos, and the game's very subtle and very clever at getting you to try out different weapons. And for that type of game to come back each time, like, oh, I'm going to use this one this time and this one this time. It's very good at forcing you away from favorites, which I started to do initially and realized I wasn't getting the most out of it. But it's, combine that with a phenomenal soundtrack with seemingly endless dialogue, like, again, 100 plus hours and I still feel I talk to new characters and they're saying shit I don't know, or I'm still advancing story quest lines this far in, having done the main game, quote unquote, multiple times at this point, and I'm still unlocking stuff and trying to get certain completionist things, which in other games I don't normally care about, but in this one I'm like, I want to complete that roster, or I want to buy all this shit for the lounge, or give Cerberus a nice bed to like roll around in. The replay value and the addictive gameplay loop, mixed with the fact that, especially on the Switch, where it's so easy to just be like, right, I'm putting you down now, or I'm picking you up. But a gameplay run really for Hades is kind of about, it can be as, like, in my experience, I've been trying to get quicker, as short as like 10, 12 minutes in early stage.
The whole game in 12 minutes?
Yep.
Bloody hell.
But in slower runs or more methodical stuff, depending on your builds and all that jazz, it's still kind of around the 20 minute, 25 minutes. But basically, I can go, right, I'm having a break. I'm going to play Hades. I've got half an hour. Easily in half an hour, I can do a full run of the game. I can come away from it satisfied, whilst also being like, oh, but just one more go. It's crack. It's crack cocaine, and I'm not, again, a roguelike or rogue light aficionado, and the reason for that is I'm very much more a traditional RPG man, which is I like seeing my progress cemented, and the more I play a Skyrim, or the more I play a game where I'm building up in stats very obviously, and I'm getting stronger and stronger, and there's a balance in terms of grind. I'm not like JRPG level of grind like crazy, which I used to be in terms of Final Fantasy games, but I don't quite like that. But equally, I like getting to a point where the difficulty curve starts to diminish, as in you start the game and you're weak and you're helpless and you die loads and you suffer, blah, 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 blah. And then as the game goes on, a combination of RPG stat build and general overall skill means it dips, and you go back to earlier stages and you wreck the game. And, you know, if you do grind a bit, you can be a bit overpowered. And I kind of like building to that point. And generally roguelike games don't do that, but this is the distinction. And I'm going to get this the wrong way around. One of those ones, roguelite or roguelite, one of them charts progression kind of in an RPG sense, which is you will slowly build stats and things like that over time, the more times you die. And then the other one is none of that will build, but you'll start unlocking shortcuts, or the more you get to know the game and the enemy types or whatever, you don't really need to like have any stat progression, and you'll just naturally get better at the game, but you'll still reset every time back down to base 0. And I think Hades has the balance spot on, where you die, and you die loads of times, and you will die, you know, dozens, if not hundreds of times before you even complete the game for the first time. But you still keep going back for more, and there's enough progression that's permanent that makes you feel like you're getting better, that makes you break through that barrier, unlocks a little bit of extra health, another extra go, a better weapon, more boons from the gods, or... I'm rambling here. Fucking love it. Buy it. Don't care what platform.
Hades,
Switch. Hades is great.
From my experience, what I think is good about Hades is that I don't think that necessarily what I get out of Hades is the same as what you get out of Hades, because I always compare it to like card games, where I like playing card games because of the luck element. I work towards something, but I don't count cards. I don't watch the deck, see remember what other people have. And I think I play Hades a bit like that, in that maybe there are choices that I could learn from, like, oh, actually I prefer this boon. But I kind of go into it and then look at them at the point where they're giving me the options. I go, I fancy that one. Like, and you can still get, I'm still getting further in the game every single time I play it.
And the game, to give the game credit, the game rewards you for that system. The game goes, you're to get better at this game, you need to do something different every time. Pick a different weapon, a different god,
that's what I've started doing.
Different tactic, and you might not get on with it, but trust us, like, either we'll give you physical rewards for doing so, or you will have a better understanding of the game for doing that. And for someone who is more likely to be like, yeah, but I just want to go for my same weapon and my same god and just wreck the game, it's like, no, you're not going to get the most out of it. That's what I appreciated. It forced me out of that. And okay, now I might go, right, if I want to do a bitchin' ass run, I'm going to pick this weapon, try and go for this god, I'm going to look for certain boons. I've reached that level now, but that's because I'm trying to speed run it. I'm trying to get quicker and quicker. From an enjoyment perspective, variety is the spice of life. Fuck it, let's do a drunken Dionysus boon with the fists hammers of more. God, I can't remember half the stuff. Or let's get the.
It keeps it interesting, and it keeps it fresh. Where you are going to keep dying, and you are going to have to keep doing the same loop. Essentially, well, not exactly.
And
the same.
I love it.
It just varies it up enough, yeah. And also, can I just add to that the it looks so good. The art.
Oh my god! Yeah, sorry.
Is really great.
Gameplay, soundtrack, voice acting, dialogue trees, lore, all of that stuff is good. Can't forget a massive visual element of how beautiful it is.
Really great.
And for anyone who is a fan of Greek mythology, even if this isn't really your type of game, it's I think you can get into. It's why I can't recommend it enough, because I feel like it has universal appeal to people who aren't into that.
It's got a very, very slick and distinctive kind of comic art style to it, and it's really pleasing to see a studio that knows exactly what they want to do with their games in terms of how they are presenting them, and just being able to continuously like nail it, because it seems like their first was Bastion, their first major game.
Bastion was their first major game, and again, to give credit to Bastion, really solid game, and I've got fond memories of that. But I don't go through Bastion trying to use every weapon. I'm not as invested in the lore. The art style's lovely, but it's I'm not playing it for the same amount of hours I'm doing Hades.
Sure.
This is it's not their magnum opus. Well, I hope not, because I'm desperate for their next game, but it shows they've learned every time and they've gone from strength to strength.
Yeah, well, it seems like with Bastion, they sort of were able to really refine the way that they wanted to make their games and have just continued to evolve that going forward. Hades gets to be the beneficiary of that really distinctive style that they are nailing. I haven't started the game yet, but I will.
Why not?
I've been playing other things.
We're going to stop this podcast right now and wait for you to complete the game. I'll wait.
Oh, God.
And while we wait, a word from our sponsors.
Brewdog, the delicious post-modern classic beer. Don't take your dog and put it in a brewery. No, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about United We Stand for Better Beer, fiercely defiant and independent. Wait, no, that's not really great.
You need to do it in a dog voice.
The beer that started it all.
It's like Scooby-Doo, I guess.
That's great.
You sound like Yogi Bear.
That's Poochie.
Mixed with Tony the Tiger. Sorry, that was a terrible ad read. Sorry, Brewdog.